Hello everyone, welcome to yet another Tech Tuesday. I hope you're all very well. For those of you that don't know or haven't been in before, my name is David and I am your technical expert or resident geek here at OM Digital Solutions. This is our regular Tech Tuesday slot where I'll be presenting some random things to you in terms of the cameras and lenses, and also it gives you an opportunity to get into the comments, say hello and give me any questions that you might have. For those of you that are already here, please do give me a little wave and a shout out and let me know, as always, that you can hear me and see me okay. Because here in my secret studio in Cambridgeshire in the UK, it's a bit of a one-man band. So if something goes wrong, I've only got you to tell me about it. And also, I love giving you a shout out as well. So let me know who you are and where you are in the comments. It's always good to see you. Today's Tech Tuesday is called Whatever the Weather, which means we're going to be talking about weather sealing. But primarily, the biggest part of the session is actually going to be talking about the TG6, which is our fully waterproof and almost an indestructible compact camera. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how the weather sealing that was developed for things like this actually moves over to the OMD camera range as well. So I'm going to bring us some slides and show you some pretty pictures and talk tech, all while you throw as many questions as possible at me, and not just about weatherproofing either. So the Tech Tuesdays are always an opportunity for you to ask many questions about different features on different cameras and try and test everything that I know. And if I know, I will tell you how to do it, or I'll show you how to do it on a camera through my magical feed. And if I don't know, then I'll go away and find out and come back and hopefully answer your comment at a later date. First of all, let's just have a little check in the comments and make sure that everything is working very well. And I'll say hello to some people. I'm going to say hello to Peter. Hi, Peter. Peter's in the Netherlands, where it's a bit windy and wet. I can definitely sympathize with that. We've had a couple of storms pass through here recently in the UK. We've had Storm Malik and then Storm Corrie, and everything's all over the place. And I'm pretty sure my garden doesn't look like it used to do. But thanks for coming in, Peter. Hello, Terry from sunny Kent. Fantastic to have you. And as always, we've got Jedi Naught from Portugal. Mr. Williams from Wollaston, that's great to see you as well. Let's see who else we've got. Let's see if we can go a bit further afield and have some exotics for the UK anyway. Calvin from Lake Maine, fantastic to see you in. Mr. Sharp from Durham, also great to see you as well. And fantastic from Maryland to let me know that everything's coming through well. That is always good to know. Always like a good thumbs up. I got that from Mark as well. Thanks very much. Okay, so remember, talk to each other in the comments, talk to me in the comments, be as nice as you always are, and we'll have a fantastic session. I should be with you for about 45 minutes. Depends on how many questions you guys all give to me. So let's have a quick look at what we're going to do today. So let me just bring in a different screen here. There we go. This is the TG6. So I'm going to talk to you primarily about the kind of conditional protection on the TG6. I do apologize for that rather loud bing bong that just went on there. I don't know where that came from. But we're going to talk to you about conditional protection, and that's things like, you know, the weather or the environments that you're in. And it'll give you an idea about how cool the little TG6 camera is. And of course, TG6 is the latest in our range of cameras that basically we've been doing since the 70s, which have been waterproof and shockproof and everything else. So let's have a little click through and see what we can see. This is our TG6, and of course it's got things like tough performance. That's one of the biggest things on this camera. It's tough performance, but braced by this massive image quality with a great macro system. So I love it as a little pocket camera. If any of you that know of some of the things that I get excited about, it's about macro photography and a few other things. But this means that I can put a macro system in my pocket, and it's a variable macro system as well. And we'll have a little look at that as we go through. And something that I've always wanted to do, but never really had the chance to with the TG6 is to go and do underwater photography. So like, you know, really just get in there and see the world under the sea and even do underwater macro. So let's start talking about those specs. I'll do a few specs and then I'll come to your questions. So feel free to drop them in there and I will grab them as we go. It is waterproof, 15 meters, which is 50 feet underwater as it is, as it stands without any extra help. It's going to go 15 meters underwater, providing you look after the camera and do everything that you're supposed to do with it before you go in the water. And I will cover those in this session as well. So you've got lots of sealing, a double lock mechanism that helps to keep that performance really, really tight up to 15 meters. And the seals on the TG6 are actually something that was developed and then present in the OMD system. So that sealing system has moved over to the OMDs as well. Of course, dust proof, so you don't want to get any dust or sand or anything in there. So completely dust proof performance, keeps it all clean and tidy. And again, that double seal system really, really helps to do that. Of course, if you're going to go to the beach on a family holiday, if you're going to go walking, I know a lot of people that do go exploring sort of volcanic areas, particularly in places like my friends that will go to Iceland. That's a really key place because you've got lots of dust floating around in the air. So a camera that's sealed, whether it be a TG camera or an OMD, dust proof is really, really important. And that is camera shock proof. That means you can drop it onto concrete from 2.1 meters, that's 7 feet. So that's 10 inches higher than I am. 7 feet onto a hard surface, and it should be shock proof. And I've tested that a couple of times. In fact, the tough camera that we're going to see today, I don't know if we can see it, it's a little bit shiny. You'll see it when it gets on the overhead camera, has plenty of war wounds. It is scratched because it has been dropped, bounced around, and in some cases, I've purposely thrown it at walls to show how tough it is. So shockproof is, again, one of the major things about this camera. It is crush proof to 100 kilos. Now, I remember a day when I could say it's crush proof to 100 kilos, and I'm 92 kilos, so I can stand on that. I'm definitely heading more towards the 100 kilos now, so I might not want to stand on it if I think I've gone over that, but it is 100 kilos crush proof, so that all that external build quality is going to keep everything safe inside. And freeze proof to minus 10 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that's another really important thing. Whenever you fancied burying your camera in the snow just to come and rescue it later on and take some more pictures, it'll be fine to minus 10 degrees Celsius. So of course, that's things like snowy mountains, hiking, things like that. Now, of course, those are the usual kind of aspects of weather sealing that we talk about. We talk about waterproofing if it's on a tough camera, splash proofing if it's on an OMD, and then you've got the shock proof, the crush proof, and the freeze proof. That's all those things that come into the tough camera, but it does have so many more things about it to look forward to. Before we go on, I'm just going to pop back into the comments because I like to dip in and out. It's a really nice way to keep these sessions quite informal and keep up to date with you, the whole community. So let's see who's in. We've got Emil in Buenos Aires. Thanks for coming in, Emil. Just going to pop you up there. And we've got Patricia from Texas. Hello, good to see you. And let's see here. This is a great question from Lauren. I pull it up because I think it's definitely worth answering. Jedi Nort has asked the question, is there an Nikon F mount to Olympus lens adapter? And I think ultimately in the world that we live in, there is an adapter from any mount to any mount. So you can go from any lens to any body. They're always out there. We specifically as a company make OM to micro four thirds adapters and 4/3 to micro four thirds adapters, but there are lots of other adapters out there which will be good and bad and which will have their pros and their cons in terms of the image quality and also obviously in terms of the crop, depending on what size you're going from. So yes, there will be one out there that you can use and create your kind of Frankenstein system. But it's not something that we do here at OM Digital Solutions for that particular fit. But it's a great question nonetheless, so thanks for asking it. Okay, let's go for some more. We've got Raymond in, I think I'm saying this right, Coleraine, Northern Ireland. Fantastic to have you in, Raymond. We have got Gary in my favorite place in the US, which is Wichita, just purely because of the way that it sounds. I love the sounding of Wichita in Kansas. Thanks for coming in, Gary. Great to see you. And we've got Warren a little bit closer to home in London. Right, let's have a quick scan. Maria says, it's fab to see me chatting about the TG6 because it's the best compact camera ever for watery conditions. Thank you, Maria. That is a testament that we're going to take. So I've got Charlotte in the background, who's my my back of house helper today. Screenshot this one, Charlotte, because we need that testament for our TG6. Thanks to Maria. Who else is saying good things about the TG6? Emily. Sorry, Emily. My terrible eyesight reading these comments today. Emily says, love the TG6 and she's going skiing today and might just take it along. Take it along. Fantastic stuff. And then whatever images you take, tag us in it because we'd love to see it as well. Okay, so let's see. Jim's in. Jim's got a TG6 as well. We've got Gay in from Brisbane, and I'm just having a quick scan to see what's going on. Steve said he's had a quick look at buying a TG6, but it's out of stock. Check everywhere. There will be stock somewhere, and if not, they will be coming back in because it is a very, very popular camera as well. Okay. So let's have a quick look. And a question from Alan, which I'm going to tackle before we move on to the next slides for the TG as well. Alan's put in there that for reference, water sealing on OMD cameras and Mzuko Pro lenses. Yes, you understand things correctly. The water resistance is down to rubber seals. And with that in mind, do we recommend storing such gear in humidity control cabinets, such as those made by Ruggard, rather than in normal house conditions? It's a really, really good question, Alan, actually. And it varies depending on the environment that you're in. Here in the UK, the humidity levels don't change dramatically enough in normal day-to-day life for that to be necessary. The only times we would ever really encounter that is if we go to things like butterfly houses or hot houses, such as Kew Gardens in London, etc. And that's a kind of in and out of humidity option. Now, we obviously don't recommend that you change lenses when moving backwards and forwards from those different humid areas, the different humidity and the different temperatures. There's no official recommendation for using humidity control cabinets at all. But what you should find is that if you keep the lens on and then you bring your cameras up and down to temperature gradually, if possible, then it should be absolutely fine. But if you're living and working in such extremes and you find that humidity control cabinets are a very useful thing, then of course, for peace of mind, you can use them as well. Okay, I will come to some more comments in a little while. Let's have a look at what we've got here next. So what else has the TG6 got? Well, it's got the anti-fog lens front, the glass, the dual pane protective glass on the front. This is the first, I believe the first, it may well have been the second, perhaps on the TG5, but I'm pretty sure this one is the first one, is anti-fog in terms of protective glass on the front to make sure that when you're going between those kind of humidity levels and warm and dry to cold and wet, then you're not going to get any fogging on there. So that's a really, really good improvement that we've kind of put on this on the cameras. We've gone forward with these models. One of my favorite bits and pieces about the TG6 is the field sensor and location data. So if any of you have got any M1X, you'll know that you've got field sensor and location data in there. You've got a GPS chip. You've got a logging facility that will log things like the temperature, the humidity, the speed at which you're traveling. The same thing as well. So if you're traveling around in a vehicle, make sure you're sticking to the speed limit, and you can log all those things. But ultimately, you can access those plus a compass, an e-compass, when the camera is off. And I'll show you how to do that towards the end of the session. But it's a really, really useful feature because you've got all of these different things like atmospheric pressure, altitude, above sea level, or depth if you're below sea level, and things like that. Now, of course, this all relies on GPS, and GPS all relies on visibility of the satellite in terms of where the camera is. So if you're in a building like I am today, it's very unlikely that you'll pick up your GPS location. Very similar to if you had your car sat nav and brought it in the house, it's very unlikely that the satellite will be able to see you. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. So these are designed to be out in the environment to work at their best. Now, of course, the TG range has always been one for phenomenal lens quality, and it's always been in TG an f2 super bright high resolution lens. If you combine everything that this camera's got that is there to make incredible images, it's the f2.0 lens, the TruePic 8 imaging engine, and that super back illuminated CMOS sensor. So those three things are combining to give you that fantastic image quality. Now, with that, of course, obviously, you've got different modes in the camera to help you shoot in different environments. And one of those, being a waterproof camera, is underwater. So you've got these 5 extra modes that are going to help you out. And the design of the algorithms that helps to process those profiles when you're shooting underwater has been much improved from TG4, TG5 up to TG6. So you can shoot underwater macro, you can shoot underwater microscope. One of my favorite things about the TG system, which is absolutely crazy, is the microscope mode. You've got an underwater wide, an underwater snapshot, and an underwater HDR, all to help you get the best out of your images whilst you're shooting underwater, plus a whole ton of accessories, which I can show you in this session as well. Things like converter lenses to go wide angle, tele-angle, things like that. And a full underwater case if you want to go further down than 50 feet, you can get another case that's going to protect it even further. Now, one of the biggest improvements in TG6 was about the color profiles. So for those of you that go diving underwater, you'll know that colors look different at different depths. So we've adjusted the algorithms in the color profiles to help assist when shooting at those different depths. And you have settings underwater to control the white balance. You've got the shallow, mid-range, and deep underwater white balance options. Now, if you look at the shallow one, we've improved the capability of the red tones, and that's up to a depth of 3 meters, because that's where red is most effective in that first 3 meters of water. Now, after that, you start to lose that that kind of wavelength of color. You go to the mid-range, which is 3 to 15. We're starting to look at a collection of blues and reds looking slightly different. And then if you go deeper, then you really are starting to lose that red light, and you're in sort of 15 meters or plus. And we've made improvements to how that looks as well. So we've got these different color profiles to help you when you're at different depths. And it's nice and easy to handle. We'll come on to the handling of it in a little while, but ultimately it's been designed in such a way that you can handle it with your bare hands if you are diving somewhere reasonably nice where you can have bare hands, or if you're using gloves because you need to in those conditions, it's been made easier to handle in that sense as well. Now that brings us on to the macro system, my favorite part of it, and it is variable macro. So you've got these options for macro, super macro, and microscope mode. You can use the microscope mode to zoom in and out. So it's one of the only cameras that can actually zoom physically in and out whilst in its macro mode. And I've brought up the image here of the ice and the snowflakes, because that's one of the great things that you can do about this camera, is that you can be out there in all weathers and take pictures of things like ice crystals and snowflakes or things like that. So you can switch between zoom magnifications of 1, 2, and 4 times with the macro level, but you can go to a maximum magnification of 44 times with the zoom lever on the front. That's whilst you're in macro mode. So from a standard macro close-up, and focusing on this camera is at 1 centimeter from the front of that sort of lens covering there, 1 centimeter, and you can then further zoom in 44 times magnification on top of that, which is phenomenal really in terms of a small compact camera. Okay, so let's just leave that up for a second there. I'm going to come back onto here. Big face for you, and I'm going to have a look at some of the other comments that are in the group just now. So let's see what we've got. Cheryl's in from Hitchin. Hello, Cheryl. Great to see you. You're only down the road in Hitchin. Fantastic stuff. We've got Dave Jowett. Hello, Dave. Good to see you as always. Dave's question is, after fitting a fisheye lens, he mislaid the original lens ring. The only replacement that you can find is an Olympus one. Would it still be waterproof with this on? Well, that's a really, really fantastic question. Let me switch on an overhead camera ready to look at some things like that. And with that question in mind, let's go ahead and boop. Oh, there we go. You get me and the camera in this one. So what Dave's referring to is this protection ring on the front. Okay, so it's like a decoration ring, but effectively it covers up the mounting for all of the converters and the light guide and the add-on extras that go onto the TG6. And there's a little button that we can press here, and then we can twist this and lift that away. So this is the bit that Dave's lost. Understandably, it's only a little bit. If you pop it in your pocket or drop it in a beach somewhere, it can get lost. So do keep that as safe as possible. And that leaves this mounting section here, which is a thread system that we can add on our light guide or our converters or anything else like that. Now, if you lose this and you are left with this open face, other than it not quite being as pretty as it was when that was on, then there's no real problem to it. So it's not going to be any less waterproof with this off, because this little mount decoration clip here is not sealed. There is no sealing around here. There is no rubber rings, O-rings, or anything else like that. No gaskets. So if that's gone, then you don't need to worry about it. That is absolutely fine. So if you have one that fits on there and it's not an Olympus one, or even indeed you just don't have one on at all, it's still absolutely fine. Just make sure that you don't get a buildup of salt in here. So if you go with it into the seawater, into anything saline, then just make sure that it gets a good rinse off as per the instructions under clean, cold water, fresh water when you're done. And that'll just stop any salt buildup in there. Okay, hope that helps, Dave. rid of that. Margot, excellent. Great to see you, sort of, virtually as well, Margot. Margot is in Atlanta, if I remember rightly. Good to have you in. We've got Jane in from the British Channel Islands. Good to see you as well. And Peter has asked the question, can you mount the camera on a pole and remotely trigger it whilst the camera is underwater? This is another super question. And it's come up a couple of times previously. And the thing is that there is nothing, we don't have a system that can physically remotely trigger this whilst on a pole system. And I think this is for kind of putting over the side of boats, as I think was the question that has been asked of me previously. And then somebody asked me if you could then use the Wi-Fi in order to trigger the camera underwater. And the problem is, as much as the camera has Wi-Fi and you can use the OI Share app with it, Wi-Fi's biggest barrier in terms of how much it moves forward or up, down, left or right is of course water. And Wi-Fi doesn't work through water very well, no more than about an inch, I would imagine. We've tested this many times with fish tanks and cameras in fish tanks and things like that. So that is a bit of a problem. So we don't have a solution where you can mount it onto a pole and remotely trigger it. However, I imagine some crafty third party may well have a system that could do that for you. But unfortunately, nothing from me, I'm afraid, Peter. Let's have a little look. Is the EE1 weather resistant? From Terry. Yes, it is. If you're going to have the EE1 on your EM1 or EM5 or EM1X, then yes, it is weather resistant. Most of the additional optional extras for the OMD system are weather resistant, such as the flash systems. They're weather resistant as well. Okay, let's see. Brilliant question from Russ. Russ has got a TG5. Hope you're enjoying it. Is there much difference to the 6? Yes, there's been some improvements in terms of things like noise performance, low light performance. We've also added the underwater profiles. Ultimately, if you're using it in its underwater capacity, aside from a few other options, yes, there is a huge amount more from the 5 to the 6 that's added in terms of underwater capacity. You'll find that the standard tough specifications of them are the same. So 50 feet underwater, 2.1 meters drop proof, 100 kilos crush proof, and -10 freeze proof. Those aspects remain the same. There's a couple of additional photographic features in the menus. And of course, a lot of the underwater features have been improved as well. Plus, we've also got the logging function on this, which is much better than a standard field sensor section on its own. So yes, there can be a great deal depending on what environment you're planning on using it in. Okay, lots of hellos, Octavian. This is the Olympus TG6 camera that we're talking about today. That was your question. We've got Claire, late to the party. Don't worry, Claire, if there's anything that you've missed when we finish this, depending on whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can always come back and watch the beginning bits later on as well. So don't worry about that. If you are enjoying it, by the way, please share the field. Give us a like. If you don't follow us, please follow us. We've got loads of stuff. Our Tech Tuesdays, which is normally me, are usually on the first and last Tuesdays of every month. Plus, we've got everybody else, including Coffee with the Claires and our ambassadors, giving lots of cool things via live. So make sure you follow us and share our feeds if you want to share that with your photographic friends as well. Question from Justin's asked a question. Do the Pro lens seals eventually break down? Do they need replaced or oiled or lubed at all? Nope. You should have quite a long lifespan out of those. Obviously, if you're using things in very extreme environments, it's worth checking them regularly, but we have a pro repair service or a pro inspection service that you can always send your kit in. If you're ever not sure and you're wondering whether or not your kit is in good condition, you can send it off to us for a diagnostic and we'll let you know how it's doing. Okay, so hello to Annette Johansson. Let's just have a quick look at this one. Annette Johansson's asked how to handle the camera body lens when entering inside from the rainforest. Don't take the lens off the body when coming from a humid atmosphere into perhaps an air-conditioned atmosphere. That's what I would say. And give it some time to acclimate. You can pop it into a rucksack. The rucksack will allow the camera to acclimate slowly. Which is always a good thing. It's these extremes of environments you just need to be aware of going from one to another and how to do that, but acclimate slowly. Okay. Hi, Megan. How you doing? Megan McCarb's in. saying the macro system on the TG5 is absolutely insane. We're singing from the same song sheet there, Megan. And also, good to see you as well, as always, in the comments. Marsha's in from Florida. I spoke to Marsha the other day. Is it still snowy, frosty in Florida? I don't know. Let me know. If anyone's in Florida, I know that some of you have seen some crazy white stuff on the ground that might be snow and frost and ice. Unusual for Florida, but I hope it's not causing too much mayhem for you guys out there. And we've got Fritz in from South Germany. Always good to see some new names as well. So keep coming in and sharing with everybody. Okay, let's go back to my little slides here. And let's move on from our last thing there, which was the variable macro system. Let's have a little look at the accessories. So this is basically what's available predominantly, the kind of standard non-specialist deep underwater stuff for the TG6. You've got in the middle there the cameras, obviously. You've got the LG1 and the FD1. So you've got a light guide, LG1, and FD1, which is a flash diffuser. These are both additional extras. They'll sit on the front with that decoration ring off. They'll go on there. Superb for macro. So you want the light guide or the flash diffuser. The flash diffuser is much better for very, very close macro. Gives you such a beautiful soft round light around there. And it's not battery powered. It's simply just redirecting the flash on the camera through that kind of system to then project that softened diffuse light out there. Absolutely great bit of kit, that one. Then you've got the FCON, which is a fisheye converter. That's a fantastic bit of kit. You've got a second one. There's two fisheye converters. You've got some filters, and you've got a TCON as well, which is a teleconverter. You've got a converter adapter as well down there at the bottom, CLA-T01. The lens barrier, absolutely superb. If you're worried about scratches and gravel and grit and dust and things like that on that front element, if you are out and about in those kind of environments all the time where you get gritty areas, then the LBT01 lens barrier is superb. You screw it on the front, and all you're going to do is just do a quick slide one way, slide the other way, and it will open and close those barriers. You can do that with gloves on as well. Another favorite one of mine is the silicon jacket. CSCH127 is a brilliant grippy silicon jacket that gives you more handling. And I love that one because I'm clumsy and I tend to turn any small compact camera ultimately into a bar of soap, and they slide out of my hands very, very easily. So the silicon jacket is a superb add-on in there as well. You've got a sports holder and ultimately the floating strap. I've got some friends that live on the River Cam over in Cambridge, which is very, very, very close to here. And they live on narrow boats. And I've recommended this camera to a lot of them because of the environment that they live in, but also the float strap, because quite possibly that they could drop it into the river, but the float strap will keep it up there. You get a soft camera case, and of course you've got your underwater case as well, which will help you out if you want to go further than 15 meters or 50 feet, which is fantastic. This leads us on to the extra bits that are available to the underwater system as well. You've got things like strobes in there, you've got arms cables, you've got protective rings, you've got your silicone grease and your gaskets and all other things like that, weights and diffusers. These are all the really kind of key specialist stuff for the underwater system. And obviously not forgetting that the TG6 is available in either black or red. Now, if you are going underwater with it, red's always a good color in case you drop it, but bear in mind that you will lose sight of red the further deep down you go. Okay, excuse me. Let's have some water, because lots and lots of talking means that I get a very dry throat and I'll end up coughing into my microphone, and that's not very nice for anybody. Let's see what else is in the comments. Hello, Mina from Finland. Fantastic where the snow is. Beautiful. Dave wants to know, what is the EE1? Well, the EE1 is the Eagle Eye one. It is the dot sight that can be fitted onto the hot shoe of any camera to enable you to effectively track subjects with a much, much longer fixed lens. And it was intended, realistically, I think, for use with the 300mm f4. But it was introduced in our SP100? Yes, zoom, 50 times zoom camera. It was a zoom bridge camera that we used to make, and it had the built-in dot sight on the top, and that's what the EE1 is. It's a separate standalone dot sight. I hope that answers your question. How weather resistant, from Christopher, how weather resistant is the 14-150 lens when mounted on an EM5 Mark III? Well, this is the 14-150 weather sealed lens on an EM5 Mark III, which is weather sealed. So it will match the weather sealing of any other combination of weather sealed camera and lens to the same value, with the exception of the EM1X, which has slightly higher graded weather sealing, which runs to IPX1, which is ingress protection X1. But it will run the same amount of weather sealing as any other combination of a weather sealed camera and weather sealed lens. And Alan's, there we go. Alan's put it in words for me. He wants a dot sign that mounts on the hot shoe. Who else have we got? Jane is saying, oh, Jane's brought up flash diffusers. Cygnus Tech flash diffusers. Magnificent macro add-ons there. Arrived from Australia yesterday. Fantastic stuff, and it works brilliantly. You're welcome. We were recommending macro diffusers in another session. The Cygnus Tech one was one of our favorites. Okay, Marcia says it's warming up in Florida. That's always good to know. Feel free to send a bit of that warm weather over here to the UK. Right, let's have a look at moving away now from the TG. I'm going to come back to that on the overhead camera in a few seconds to have a little look at the physicalities of it and a few other things. But I just want to sort of go over real quickly the weather sealing in the OMD range as well. So let's have a look at what we've got. This is an EM5, and most of the OMD cameras have approximately around 60 seals, O-rings, or weatherproof gaskets on there. And you can see that in all that red stuff in the image of the camera there. That's all the weather sealing on an EM5 Mark III. Fantastic amount of weather sealing, including the lenses there. And then this one is the EM1 Mark II, and would also count for the Mark III as well in terms of weather sealing, based on this magnesium alloy chassis. So that's that super soft, super strong. In fact, I've got one of these. I've got a magnesium alloy chassis. Let's come back to this one here. This is the magnesium alloy chassis for the EM1X, and it is solid. I had this taken out with me when the EM1X first came out, and I had people try and crush it and bend it because they think it's either 3D printed or it's made from a very flimsy, lightweight metal. But honestly, it's really difficult. You can squeeze it and crack it and all sorts of things. It's tough stuff. And you've got that in the body of your EM1 Mark II and Mark III as well. So that's from the EM1X, which means it's superb for those rough conditions. Now, when we talk about weatherproofing, I think it's really important to mention the dust reduction system, because if you do get dust in there, and by all means, 99.9% of the time, this will be because, as the users, we've taken the lens off in an environment where dust has been present. Okay, and everyone does it. It's just one of those things that we sometimes go, oh, I've changed the lens and a bit of dust has come in. But to counteract that, your OMDs have got something called a supersonic wave filter, the SSWF. And that's the dust reduction system. And what that does is it vibrates the sensor 30,000 times a second every time you switch your unit on and off. So when you switch it on, you might hear a little zzz noise. And when you switch it off, you might hear a zzz. And that's the supersonic wave filter vibrating the dust off there. Now, we demonstrated with this in the still. This was a droplet of water that we placed on the sensor. And as that activated, it threw that up in the air, just to show you the amount of force that's involved in that. And believe it or not, the amount of G-force, if we talk about it in terms of gravity units, is several thousand Gs of force that are exhilarated on that sensor for that split second at that time. And we developed a dust reduction coating for the sensors as well. So that stops things from sticking so much on them. The EM5 has got the Mark III has got the same coating as the EM1 Mark III and the EM1X as well, which is really, really useful. Now, of course, we do test all of our cameras in R&D before we send them out. And we're spraying these cameras for hours and hours at a time. Again, this is your EM1X with all of its seals present and stuff like that. And the EM1X has that IPX1 weather resistant rating. That's an independent standard. IP stands for ingress protection, and X1 stands for the level of weatherproofing that it has got. And obviously, we put them through some really, really rigorous testing before they ever get to you, the user. Like I said earlier on, we've got lots of seals in the TG, and those seals have been pulled over into the OMD range. So sealings around things like remote cables, microphone sockets, headphone terminals, your SD slot entrances and exits as well. They're all sealed with the same sort of stuff that comes from the TG range. So we do kind of use as much of that in-house technology on all of the machines as possible. And that dust reduction system, again, that's just to give you an idea of the setup and its vibration at 30,000 times per second with that extra special coating that goes on there as well. Now, I've probably got a few more slides back in there. Let's have a quick look. Of course, we've got video. So when you're out doing video, you can't stop if it's raining, or it might be specifically that you have to video during a wet scene because that's part of the footage. So it's really important that your camera is going to be weather sealed through that. So if you've got the camera screen folded out and you're using it in video, then all of your sockets are protected, your screen is protected, and it's absolutely fine to use when shooting video in the rain. And that's kind of like the whole kind of ins and outs of the weather sealing, to show you just how it kind of moves over from TG range 5 to 6, and then those other options that we put into the OMDs to show you how tough they really are. Now, what I wanted to do, I'm going to have another look in the comments just for any more questions, and then I'm just going to show the physicalities of the TG6, a couple of those kind of open bay doors and the seals and things like that, just so you get an idea of what you really should be doing to look after your kit if you've got one of these cameras, or if you're planning on getting one, of course. Let's just have a quick look and make sure that we're saying hi to as many people as possible. And again, I do apologize if you've said hello and I've not said hello back. I'm sorry. I do kind of have to scan these, and some people do get missed, but my intentions are there to say hi to everyone. Let's have a quick look at what we've got here. We've got Roger from Colchester. Hey, Roger Hanson's in from Colchester. Hi, Roger. Roger's doing some amazing bird photography and producing some brilliant educational videos at the moment, so check him out on YouTube, Roger Hans. Let's see, we've got also LV from Virginia. Temperatures are from the teens to the below 40s, and the birds are coming back. That is the most important thing out of that sentence, is that the birds are coming back. Fantastic stuff. Let's see, we've got Johnny from Manchester. Hi, John. Hope you're well. Roger Rawson, another familiar name. Hello, Roger. Hope you're well. And it's a good question. Not that I have an answer for it, but I like to bring them up so that people don't think I'm ignoring them. From DRWJ Brown, beautiful image of a butterfly there. Will there be an update for the Bird Detect autofocus for the EM1X? Well, the update for the EM1X is when we put Bird Detect into it last year. So at this stage, there is no official announcement for any updates, but keep your eyes peeled, because we do always talk about updates. We do always try and update things as much as possible. But at the moment, there is nothing that we can offer you in terms of any more information on that. But as soon as I know, and as soon as I'm allowed to tell you, I will come back on here and I'll tell you all about it and how to do that as well. So keep your eyes peeled. Let's have a look. Mayland, excellent. Mayland's in Perth in Australia. Great to see you, Mayland, as ever. His question is, how good is the EM1, 2, 3, and X to stop paint pounders when they are thrown on the air if you're using a zoom lens like the 12 to 40 or 40 to 150? That is a very good question, because those lenses do breathe. Now, as far as I know, there are procedures and builds in place to stop things like that coming through into the system when zooming those lenses, but I don't have a specific technical explanation as to how that works. But on that note, it's probably something that I'm going to now go away and see if I can find some information on for you, Mayland. But I do know that because they are breathing lenses, that you will definitely have some form of protection in there. But how it works, I'm not completely sure. But I love your question, so I will look into it and try and find out for you. Let's have a look. Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. Good to see you. What about metal to metal, camera to lens connections? Well, predominantly, most of them are metal to metal. So if we look at the rear of a 12 to 40, let's get that in there nice and tight. That is metal. But what you will see around here is that there is a rubber gasket that runs all the way around the outside of here. Very, very fine. Shouldn't really do what I'm doing there, so don't do that. But there is a rubber bit there. And then obviously there is the mount. Everyone get that in there. There we go. There is the mount of the camera, and that is the metal part. So what's actually happening is that the rubber is making the most contact with that and protecting any, I suppose, grinding action would be what would occur if that wasn't there. So nice and safe. Okay, so let's make sure our overhead camera's on right before we finish up and do some more questions in there as well. So the time has flown today. I don't know if anybody can see it. I'm getting slightly warm in here. The sun did come out. Just as I was saying, it was really, really chilly in Cambridgeshire. The sun actually came out at the front of my studio, and that's south facing. So the temperature in here has gone up about 4 degrees since I started talking. So apologies for the rosy cheeks. It's not what I expected during this live. But let's go across to the overhead camera and let's have a quick look at what we've got. So here we go. This is our TG6. Let's put our lens protection ring on now, I have to find the exact spot for this. It only goes in one specific way. There we go. First thing I want to show you before we go back to any last questions and comments here is the bays. So you've got two bays on your Tough camera. You've got one on the bottom of the camera, and then you've got one on the side of the camera just here. Okay, it's really important that you seal this. There are two locks on each part of the base. So if you see any of this orange color behind one of the locks, that means that this bay is not fully sealed. In fact, you'll see there that it is now wide open. So what you need to do is, if you've got that, you need to push it down, and you can only lock one at a time. So we're going to lock one like that, and then we've got the secondary one here, and we need to make sure that that is locked as well. So we can't see any orange through any of these. That's the double lock mechanism. If you only lock one of those out of forgetfulness, laziness, any other reason in the world, it's not fully protecting your camera. So really, really important on that one. And then obviously we've got the same here. We've got a lock there and a lock there. They only open in a specific sequence. And behind here are the ports for your USB and HDMI output connection as well. Close down, lock, and lock. It's usually the bigger of the two locks that locks first, and then the smaller one out of that. Some more specifics here is you've got a tripod bush on the bottom of here to hold your tripod plate as well, nice and easy. And then if we look at the top, you've got a really nice, easy to use dial. You can use this very easily with gloves on. You've got a zoom lever here, which is very easy to use with gloves on. A projected button that's nice and easy to feel with gloves on. Your power switch, obviously a little note telling you that there's a GPS chip in there. And the logging function. Now, if you turn the logging function on, which I'm not going to do now, it works even when the camera is off. That's one of the great things about this. If you want to log a journey, you switch it on, you throw it in your bag, and it's logging absolutely everything. One of the other cool things that this camera can do whilst it's switched off is show you all that field sensor data and the e-compass. So whilst the camera is off, we can press the info button once, and that will bring up our compass with our time, our temperature, humidity, atmospheric pressure, and this would be our GPS coordinates down here if the camera had GPS switched on and it was connecting to a satellite. So this is a really, really cool piece of information that you get on this wonderful little adventure camera. And if you want to get rid of it, you can just press the info button there, and then obviously switching on is going to give you access to everything else. Now, the features are really, really easy to get around on this camera. Like I say, if you've got gloves on, these dials project slightly so that you can literally just nudge them with your fingers. You've got an aperture priority mode, a program mode, an automatic mode, scene modes to skip through various different options in terms of environmental shooting, people, nightscapes, motion, etc. Specifically your macro mode, which gives you option to all the different macro setups. We have normal macro, we've got focus stacking, focus bracketing, and the microscope control, which is the one that allows you to zoom up to 44 times magnification in there as well. Your specific underwater modes, which again will adjust those color profiles for the depth. That's really, really important. A movie mode, which will give you access to things like high-speed shooting to make slow motion movies, etc., etc. And you can customize them and save C1 or C2 into the dial as well. So if you've got preferred settings, you can put those in and lock them in nice and easy. Of course, you do have a flash on the camera, but also you have an LED light. So if we look in a normal mode and I press the LED light function, the flash function on the side here, we can scroll across all the way to LED on and press OK. And when we press that on, anytime I half press the button, I'm going to get this LED focusing option popping up here and give me a little bit of light. And you can have that on in video mode permanently as well, so you can use it to light up your videos. So overall, a really, really easy to handle camera, but really, really nice and tight in terms of those sort of tough specifications. And that's exactly what you want from this kind of stuff. Let's have a look. We've got Mail. Good to see you in here, actually. Yeah, good to see you. Seen you a few times. Great to see the extent of the weather sealing. So thank you very much. Let's see. We've got Yvonne in. Hi, Yvonne. Hello, Yvonne. Always good to see the names that we recognize as well as the new ones. Okay, so just do a little bit on there. Let's see. Debs has just put a question here. Let's investigate this one. Debs has said, I'm missing the little screw on the button on the front of my OMD EM1 Mark III. Little screw. Let's have a look at that one. Where can I get a replacement, and does that compromise the weather sealing? Well, we don't supply any additional screws for you to do that yourself, Debs. But what I would say is ultimately you should send it to a technician, to our technician center, and then we can have a look at it and make sure that it's fully sealable. When we do get that, we'll make sure that we let you know what the issue is and what the resolution will be for you. But the only thing that I can officially recommend is that you send it in to us. There is the potential that any missing parts can compromise weather sealing, so it's always good to have it checked out. Okay, Tor, hello Tor, good to see you as well. Before I sign off, I'll pull Tor's message up. Tor is saying that the humidity in Brisbane at the moment is off the charts, as well as the temperature. Well, that'd be no good for me because my hair goes all frizzy in the humidity like that. It look like I've put my fingers in an electrical socket, is what it would be for the humidity on that one. Oh, Debs, oh, fantastic stuff. Debs has just clarified the comment, the twist on front button. That's this one that you're referring to just up here. Let's have a look. There we go. That covers the PC sync socket. This is the traditional flash PC sync cable socket. You can pick these up pretty much anywhere. We can get them to you as well. You can order them online, and yeah, you should get one because it will definitely affect the weather sealing. If that's not on, you need that one on. Yes, Christopher, yes, she did mean the flash sync cover. Well done, well spotted. Okay, so hopefully today's been a good session for you. We should have another Tech Tuesday coming up in a few weeks, so keep your eyes out for that one being advertised as well. And of course, it will be here on YouTube and on Facebook as well. If you joined a little late, you can watch the playbacks in those places as well. Keep watching, keep sharing the feeds, and as always, thank you very much for coming in and listening to me waffle on for about 45 minutes about this. I do look forward to seeing you in all of the other things that we do, but for now, stay safe, and I will see you again on the next one. Bye for now.